Good afternoon. I really appreciate you coming to this session here. I apologize for my voice. Maybe keep me a little bit less long-winded, possibly. I'm from Minnesota. My title is Asset Management Project Manager. I've been at this role about, formally for maybe about a year. We've been working on some projects for maybe a little bit longer than that. I got to tell you how intimidating it is being with you here, though. We are pretty new in the formal asset management effort in MnDOT. We were at the last IUC and we didn't even have a contract with AgileAssets yet at that point in time. So we're just getting a start at this effort. So I'm happy to share what we've been doing with you guys, but I really look to you in this room as experts and mentors more for us. So to the extent you can get some takeaways from what we have to share here, great. I'd also appreciate your observations or heads up if you see there's some blind spots in our thinking or anything like that. So appreciate that. I also got an email since we did the program from one of our Minute people and said, Dave, nobody wants to listen to you for 45 minutes. You better find somebody to help you. So I asked two folks from my project team, Tom Zimmerman and Trish Stefanski, to kind of co-present with me here. Tricia, maybe you can just raise your hand. Tricia is she's what we call department key expert. Both she and Tom been with the office for a year or so. Tricia's got a lot of experience in the Metro District in MnDOT, doing asset management, kind of confined to that area, and then she's also got a very deep understanding of a lot of technical issues, so she's really critical on our team. Tom Zimmerman, he is what we call business liaison, and his primary role is to really, he'd been a maintenance superintendent with MnDOT for 34 years, something like that? Okay. So he's really got a lot of relationships, understanding of the business process in the field, as well as a real strong technical background. I would introduce Wade Adams too. Wade, you can raise your hand. That's the four of us that are here at the conference. Wade is our application coordinator. He worked in the same district as Tom Zimmerman. I'm not sure if that's a coincidence or not, but he's our application coordinator for the AgileAssets program here. All right, so here's the outline for the talk that we're going to give. A little bit on the structure and organizations, kind of where I fit in the organization as a manager. Some of the challenges that we looked at, some of the major triggers. We had really three major triggers that sort of got us kind of formally down the path of asset management, and I'll speak to those kind of individually as I go through my slides. Trisha's going to talk a little bit about some of the specifics of our implementation. We just went live about 2 weeks ago after having started the contract in July of 2015. Tom's got some thoughts to share on what we've been doing with the data that we've got from previous efforts as well. Obviously, we're not getting data out of our AgileAssets system. And then I'll try to wrap up with some of the learnings that we've had in this short time. All right. Like I mentioned, just starting this journey, we do have a vision for an enterprise approach. I appreciated the comments that Steve Wilcox made this morning. It was very helpful to us in terms of further formulating our vision. Right now it's sort of informal, but rather similar to what he described. Minnesota itself, pretty kind of average state, I guess I'd say. We've got eight districts. Kind of average size, typical design, maintenance, construction functions in our districts. Few MPOs, and we deal with really state roads only in the district, so that 29,000 lane miles is spread across the state. So as far as kind of beginning a little bit of formal asset management effort, in 2010, it was before my time, in 2010 the department leaderships spent some time brainstorming, thinking about where we want to go as a department in terms of asset management. They prepared this report. You can see the cover of it on the screen. Some takeaways from that report are looking at a TAMP, something that we followed through on, looking at finding an asset management system, again, something we followed through, developing some governance and support structure in the organization. So that early document did indeed really help us to kind of chart some course going forward from that point in time, that we just recently started implementing a lot of those recommendations. So then I said 3 triggers that really got us formally moving forward on asset management. The TAMP is one, so thanks to you, Steve, and Jim for really talking a lot about TAMP. I won't have to say much about TAMP in these remarks. But I think for us it's kind of worth mentioning. In fact, in our TAMP we had a section towards the end that really looked at things that we learned through the TAMP process to give us a direction into the future. And so there were quite a few takeaways for us, I'd say, out of that effort, in addition to helping us kind of understand. We're just going into the process of acquiring the asset management system as well, and it really supported our understanding of the needs, some of the things we want that system to be able to do for us. So MAP 21, we talked in the earlier sessions again about MAP 21 and the asset management plan. Couple bullets there. I think to me the TAMP really was just kind of cutting to the chase here. Kind of said to the states from the feds, we want to know that you're going to take care and how you're going to take care of your stuff before we really support the idea of, and we kind of hear that from our local offices about expanding your system. We really want to see your plan for maintaining what you've got. So I think that's a fairly significant takeaway from the TAMP effort for us. Another kind of key takeaway from the MAP 21 is a language down there that talks about the federal funding eligibility for asset management efforts, and we certainly would not be where we're at without the ability to use our federal funding on the 80-20 match portion of the expenses for both our system, activities we can do and are planning to do in the field in terms of maybe LiDAR survey and further asset extraction to supplement the information we've got, and our internal staffing here, our project team. So the TAMP, again, Steve mentioned, we were one of the partners in the pilot effort with Vince, also with Louisiana and New York, in preparing early model of the TAMP. Began that in, I think it was 2012. Pavement and bridge are required, of course, the analysis of those assets, and we added in Minnesota, we added our highway culverts because we had pretty good information system on those culverts, as well as overhead sign structures and tower lighting, and a couple other kind of incidentals. Those more because we felt that there was some risk that we wanted to kind of assess and do some actually learning in terms of how we could carry out risk assessments and support our future efforts in that risk process. Okay, again, we've got the sort of sections in the TAMP, and I think we've seen most of these earlier this morning, so I'm not going to go through the details of those, but focus maybe on that last bullet there, the additional steps there. We chose to utilize the asset management systems that we had to supplement the maintenance costs. We felt like we had pretty good understanding, pretty good information on our capital expenses, but when we were doing life cycle cost assessments of these various assets, we really felt like we wanted to better understand our maintenance, the maintenance components of our life cycle and our total cost of ownership. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, how we chose to address that. And then I wanted to say a few words about how we feel that the AgileAssets is going to support us in these TAMP efforts in the future. At a minimum, if you look at the inventory and conditions, we'll have much better ability to report at least what we've got in the condition. Risk analysis, again, knowing what you've got. Having more structured, rigorous inspection processes. I think we found that in some of our assets that we went through the TAMP process. Just by having the inspections, we found some things that we were kind of taking some risks that we probably would not have known about before we did that process. And we're able to rectify a number of those fairly significant risks. Life cycle cost analysis, of course, we'll have much better information on our internal costs as a minimum to be able to come up with the best practices through the life cycle costing assessment. Performance measures and targets, of course, that's fundamental, right, to the asset management and in the system, and our ability to assess gaps in terms of meeting the performance targets that we have in some cases and will certainly establish in other cases. So, and finally, the financial components of the TAMP and our ability to do not really cross-asset, but we've been trying to do is really deliberately account for our internal operations maintenance costs as we scope projects and as we evaluate capital investment scenarios. MnDOT goes through a process where we, for each of the major assets, have a number of investment level scenarios, and now we're able to begin to compare internal costs against those capital investment scenarios. So we really think once we've got our Agile system populated, we're really going to be in a much better position of being able to answer a lot of those questions. So, okay, so then here's the second major trigger: asset management. MnDOT took on an effort we called enhancing financial effectiveness, and it was for major department-wide projects. And we adopted this what's called 4 disciplines of execution. It's a Stephen Covey kind of vernacular. It's a whole program, and we use that to prosecute these projects, and actually turned out to be a rather effective way of delivering these 4 major projects. We selected asset management as one of the major initiatives of the department, and with the goal specifically of looking at our internal maintenance and operations costs. So in spite of the kind of almost silly terminology, I feel like it was a really good project, a really good process that helped us to complete what we chose as a goal for that project. So we did, in that project in particular, we used the same assets we had in the TAMP. Again, the goal was to much more carefully assess our internal operations costs. So in a short time frame, we just worked with the existing systems we had. I've shown a few of the kind of screenshots. One of the things we did was we took an old archaic timesheet process that every single employee is entering data into, and we built even more fields for them to enter data into, like the locations of where they did maintenance work on roadway, for example. For our drainage work, we actually built an ArcGIS, help me get the terminology right, Trish, ArcGIS online collector app and database, and trained a handful of folks to deliberately collect the efforts that it took to do the drainage work. We did several of those individual projects like that. And then we used BI. That kind of black screenshot down there shows some of the statistical data we worked with using the Oracle BI project that we built. To what you can kind of see there is the yellow bars are costs, and to the right of that graph is conditions. So you can see a high cost at low condition, and then as the condition improves. So we did kind of that sort of trending to build models, and we were real interested in making models that are that respond to changes in conditions. So as we, for example, like I said, with the capital program, as we project or expect a lower condition, poorer condition in the future, then we forecast the increased internal operations costs. So Tom's going to talk a little bit more about some of the data and some of the uses we've had for the data. So here's the third major trigger. I talked about those three, and that was our need to replace a system we use to manage our traffic signals and ITS devices. It was actually initiated by our traffic department, and when they got far enough into it to recognize that we're going to be buying an enterprise system, some of us recognize that we need to kind of be partners in implementing and developing the asset management system so that it's compatible with future installations. And so we partnered with those guys in terms of developing the RFP, and have been ever since as the initial implementation is being made. We've been working together with from my group in terms of the future compatibility with our needs. Also recognize that major piece of software like this is in need of a steward, and we weren't really structured at that point in time to since it was just one office that was looking for a piece of software to address all those needs. So we sort of a small group of us kind of took it on ourselves to start thinking about what the tails are, and not just the AgileAssets or the asset management at that point in time, not just that project, but in terms of maintaining a lot of the initiatives that we had developed, like under the WIG project and some of these other things. So really went through just a bit of a gap identification, needs analysis, and I essentially brought it to our department leadership and said, these are some things we feel like we need to address, and so with their support we started setting up structures that would help in terms of our governance. So we've got what we call a champion group. That 3 individuals, they are the assistant commissioners for the major divisions we have in the department that cover the operations, the engineering, as well as the planning services. Those 3 individuals there, and Tim Henkel happens to be our boss, and another kind of opportunity advantage of having Tim is because he's very active in asset management nationally. He's chair of numerous of the asset management subcommittees and TRB committees, and so of course very, very supportive. So when you choose your boss, choose a guy like this that's already an asset management champion. We also set up a steering committee. The intent of the steering committee is to really prioritize the initiatives that we take on across the department. We don't advocate for assets individually. In fact, we don't even have any of the asset owners on that committee. It's the committee is people from operations, people from planning. We do have the assistant to each of those assistant commissioners on that committee. We have our local federal highway administration as a representative that regularly attends these. We meet monthly. I'm the chair of that group. It's good. It's a good forum for. It's also the steering group for decisions for AgileAssets as we're now doing the implementation. Fortunately, we haven't had anything really controversial that that needed to be addressed by that group, but the structure is there for us should we need it. I mentioned the gap identification a minute ago. We've got a process in MnDOT where you are looking for money to do an initiative. There's kind of an application project, so we did the best we could to predict future costs of the software implementation over the next 4 or 5 years, as well as what we felt like is staffing, kind of a sort of a minimum level, I guess I might say, but a minimum level of folks to address those gaps that I had mentioned before. And I wasn't expecting it, but they approved it the way I submitted it, so I think we're obligated to deliver on those promises now. So we've set up this project team, and the team functions as, like I mentioned, a steward of the AgileAssets system and all that kind of goes along with planning for and maintaining the operation of it. We're kind of a liaison with business units as we plan on bringing it. We started the first implementation with just one of the asset classes we've got, and we'll continue to bring them in more in an iterative fashion than compared to some of the broad implementations we've heard a little bit about. So there's our project team, 4 of us here now, and then we've got an embedded ITS specialist in MnIT, and we've got Agata Mischuk is a data analyst, GIS expert as well. That's just a work plan. If I don't have time to tell you much about the detail of that, but we're kind of more than just supporting the software. We have analytical capabilities, and and you'll see from Tom's slides, we provide data services and a whole bunch of other things to our district's operations. Just a little bit about kind of how we overlap with MnDOT. Our group really is kind of a strong coordinating force, I'd say, of initiatives that are happening across the department. So we try to take responsibility of bringing things together and making sure the right people get involved. And there's been a number of times when we've heard about an initiative kind of generated in one corner of the department, and we're like, whoa, wait a minute, a lot of these things fit together, so let's get together, do a group hug here, and figure out how we can do this to the benefit of the whole department. So that's as much as I wanted to say right now. I'll ask Trish to tell us a little bit more about the implementations that we're doing.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me today, you guys. This is the part I kind of like. This is where the rubber hits the road. So take it into action. I sit in the Asset Management Project Office and love that. I also sit still in Metro Maintenance. I have a split position. I say like my personality is split. I have a split position. But I really like being in the district to see what's happening, listen to the day-to-day activities, and then I can give them updates on kind of what we're doing statewide. So it works out really well to do that. The fun facts about the project. So TAMS 1, the contract was executed June of 2015. Eric's here, Brian's here, other folks are here that have been involved. They're in the back, thank you. I feel like this project was so successvery and went really well. I mean, of course, there were growing pains, but in the end, when I look back, it's really been pretty flawless in execution. 15 months, $1.87 million budget, 2 modules. I don't know if FDC is considered a module. I'm kind of including that here. We had 19 reconciliation sessions. Now, I don't know if that's because we like to visit in Minnesota or if that's typically what happens, but it felt a little bit like therapy. We got through it, made a lot of good decisions, and I think you can see that in the software. Over 100 tables, which is also remarkable, 6 asset classes, and I think when you look at the different asset classes, this is really a complex asset class. Signals, lighting, and ITS, because of all the components and because of the underground and just because of the connection and where do you write your work order, what do you do? I think this was actually a complex system to start out with. It'll make point assets look a lot nicer. 100 users in the system is what we have so far. So I knew that we were successful, you guys, when we got an acronym and we got a logo. I mean, they kind of didn't really give us a logo because they put MnDOT right next to it. But we still got TAMS, capital letters, and an acronym. So I knew that we were coming around. We have our own website. So here it just talks about those individual assets that we've incorporated. In case any of you have questions on those, you can ask Tom. He's sitting there. And I just wanted to mention that we configured it for the inventory, the performance and inspections, which Eric did a great presentation on that. We did work requests. We're doing work requests, work orders, reports. And then one big thing in this project was integration. And I think I've heard that with other states for sure, but that becomes a really important part of the project is making sure that you're integrating with your existing systems. And this is a great graph that was put together, diagram showing that integration. We use PeopleSoft, which is called Swift in Minnesota, and that's where a lot of our financials were. And that was kind of the cornerstone of what needed to be done for integration. So that's kind of the information coming in. That's the materials, that's the cost, the inventory information, the people, the codes that are used for timesheets and for billing. And then I would say we also, a big part of this, and I've heard other states talk about this as well, is the linear referencing system. So I think we almost have that working. It's really close. If it's not, it will be by the time we get back, I'm sure, right, Eric? So the LRS, though, now that we have that, I think you can do a lot more with the system in the future. And we also have done pretty well, though, and our assets are pretty well located using GPS, but also you know that backbone of the linear referencing system, so you know where we are, reference point and roadway. The external, just a couple external connections that were huge. RCA, that's our timesheets. So we did not want our folks to be doing duplicate data entry. And I know Dave did sort of a back of the envelope calculation on why this was important, because finance was like, whoa, 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 this is our timesheet program. We don't let anyone in it. We can have duplicate data entry. They've been doing it for years. And so Dave sort of did a calculation on what was it going to cost us to continue to have duplicate data entry for our hundreds of field staff. And I mean, when that was shown to leadership, it was like, nope, we need to incorporate this. So our data is actually showing up with a button, which I love. I wanted a button. They gave me a button on the timesheet program. The data comes in, and then you see it there. There's some changes that you have to make to it, but not a ton. So we're headed the right direction, you guys. The other thing is eDocs, which is just a document management system that also was integrated. So here's just a peek quick into our TAMS system. All I wanted to show you guys here really is the functionality and how I think that's there's a lot of great parts of this product, but one is the usability. And so here you can see that a user is at the signals inventory screen. And they can click on a bunch of different relational tables. So record history, maintenance history, all of those will drill down to another bit of information for folks. So just kind of one glimpse into the system. We can show you more if you want to see more. So as Dave had mentioned, when we were kind of working towards the end of TAMS 1, we started writing the TAMS strategic plan. And I also want to consider this as an implementation because we had to write it. I don't know if anyone's read it. I kind of wonder sometimes. But in the process of writing this, we met with a lot of people, had a lot of visits again, and really framed the next portions or the next phases of the TAMS integration. So it was really a good process. I don't know, we met with 5 or 6 stakeholder groups. We have a couple stakeholder groups that really want to be into TAMS, like tomorrow. Drainage really wants to be in there. Sign track signs folks want to be in there. So how do we talk about expectations and who should be next and how what the timelines are for the project? And the best thing was to bring everyone in, talk about their existing applications, talk about what the data looks like, how advanced is their inventory and assessment, and then sort of lay it out all on the table, be as transparent as possible in those decisions. We also needed to meet with the vendors, meet with IT. You can kind of see it on here, get some financial information. So this was a really great process for us. And it formed the scope for TAMS 2. And I wish I could say that contract has been signed, but we're not quite there yet. We're getting really close. It's currently in the minute scoping process and trying to hurry that up, but it's a bureaucratic, place. So what do you expect? What we're looking at doing there is the maintenance management and sign modules. That's included another 6 additional asset classes that you can see up there. We haven't talked about, I just want to briefly mention, we haven't talked about pavement or bridge. So that's probably something different in Minnesota than other agencies maybe. Our pavement management system is HPMS, and it's sort of well established. And we have InspecTech on the bridge side, and that's also well established. But what we wanted to do is, what about all these other assets that are really important as well? We needed to get this system established and get them in for all those assets. And then we're kind of thinking that the bridge group, they might come around. the Pavement group, they might come around. So that's where we are anyway. The other things, you guys, is the operations and maintenance activities, which other folks are doing as well, patching. So we are including patching, mowing, snow and ice debris, you can see those. And then we want to add integration and functionality. So our restitution recovery, reporting and analysis, materials management. I heard a little bit about Oracle Business Intelligence, and I'm really excited for ArcGIS Server and Collector. We're replacing 4 legacy systems, so that's always good for leaders to talk and hear about as well. This slide, just very quickly, I think right now, currently, this is sort of what I get phone calls about and that I'm trying to figure out is how do we transition? People are asking questions, what if I am in TAMS and I'm doing signal operations, what field devices should I be getting? What if I'm not in TAMS? What if I am 2 years out in TAMS 2 and I'm doing sign, maintenance? What should I be using for devices? What will be the process for recording like damage restitution? So we're sort of trying to understand more about what their business is, if they should upgrade their system right now because we have TAMS 2 coming. So those are some of the things. Other efforts. So I started at MnDOT. I've worked in consulting. I've done a bunch of other things. So I started at MnDOT in 2009, luckily, on a LiDAR project, actually, for signs, where we were inventorying 400,000 signs in the Metro District. That was a great project. I thought, this is where I want to be. I like asset management. So ever since, I've been trying to advocate for us to get as much inventory done using GPS and as many assessments done, so that when TAMS comes, or when AgileAssets comes, we're kind of ready for it. So we've had several projects. You can see there signs, noise walls, earth retaining walls. Those were done 2009 to current. 2010, we did a statewide pedestrian infrastructure inventory and assessment, as I'm sure you guys have been doing as well for that ADA requirements. And then just recently, we got some results back, which I guess I can't talk about, but that where we are doing a barrier inspection and inventory statewide. So barrier, guardrail, attenuators, cable median barrier, inspection and assessment. And also, we kind of slid in that we want to have the majority of our other assets GPSed. So we want to get a better center line for LRS. We want to get the signals and lighting out state that we don't have GPS coordinates for. And we have a whole laundry list of items. We want to get utility clearances, bridge clearances, overhead sign structure clearances. So we kind of have this laundry list a la carte, like, if you're going to get room service. And but we want everything. We don't really want to pick the a la carte. So we're looking forward to that because we feel like this project, along with, along with the AgileAssets implementation, will be great. And they're using mobile LiDAR and ArcGIS Online. So that as well will be a good, efficient process. Time-wise, So the other part I just want to mention is, and I've talked to Steve about this too, is trying to develop the inspection criteria for these other signs or these other ancillary assets. And so we're still trying to do that, and it's being refined. We do have data from the consultants from this, but I think we need to really look at it before it goes into AgileAssets system. So ever since I started, we want to get these inventories completed, but then we also have to keep them up to date. I'm not going to let the money that we've spent on the inventory go to waste. So we have worked really hard in Metro District, especially to use handhelds. You can see that there's handheld there, Trimble. We're using ArcPad. We're using TerraSync. We're using ArcGIS Collector. We haven't limited people to use one application because we feel like if you're going to update the data, use whatever you'd like to do it. So this has been a culture change for us, just having people, maintenance workers in the field using devices and recording their work. We've also got a couple other things going on that I think that are really exciting, and that's doing pending asset data from construction plans. So we've recently found this tool, because we're a microstation shop, as a lot of you are, called Bentley Map. So we are going to ask our designers at the end of their projects to basically export their microstation data into GIS using Bentley Map. We've also went and talked to leaders and supervisors and really have gotten a lot of support on doing this. It adds to their time frame, but those designers are the ones that know the most about the design and about the lines and about what should be exported. So we're asking them to do that. And then we have a spec that we've put together for construction projects that requires basically with a pay item an as-built specification. All right, I'm going to move on because we're running out of time. 2 more slides. Giarilla is another great product we have, which basically is a map product in which we can put everything together. It's internal only. Esri did a fantastic job presenting all of their fancy whistles. This is an open source product that we've developed over 200 layers, and I said already, and it's like mashup. So not only is it the asset data, but it's also construction data, it's also volume data, crash data. So we're using that to deliver our assets and our data to our internal folks. And then lastly, this is also a really good project that I like. It's scoping. So this is the projects that basically are like outside of our STIP, our 4-year STIP, and into what we're calling the CHIP. I don't know if other people are too, but so that's the 10-year plan. And so we're presenting our assets on a map, we're presenting them as condition, and we're saying, hey, project managers, when you're looking out to scope for capital, look at our assets, look at the condition, and include those in your scoping. Come ask us what that means, come ask us what needs there are, but at least they're there and they can see them when they're scoping for the future. That was fast. Okay. Tom. Sorry, Tom. Tom Zimmerman, because we stepped 5 minutes.
In the interest of time, I'm going to go through my slides. They're going to be very quick. And actually, they brought me along just in case they ran short. As you can tell, in our office, we don't have a problem with running short on anything. So, just so you understand, yeah, I came from the field maintenance side of the organization. And I'm not so sure Dave knew what he was getting into when he really asked all of us. I mean, he compiled this group of people that said, we had a vision and we wanted to move forward with it. And we said, yeah, Dave, we're going to drink your Kool-Aid and we're going to go down this path. So what I want to talk about, and I'm going to be very, very brief on this stuff, is as you can see here, we've got one of the things that our office is doing, and one of the things that's been frustrating, and I think most of you have dealt with this, is that you have all these systems that have been built up either by individuals or by people who had a vision way back when that we needed to collect data in order to make decisions on it. And so we built these individual systems. We have a bridge system out there. We got a pavement management system. We have RCA that we're collecting time and maintenance stuff. And so what our hope and our goal is that eventually we're going to have a system that's going to be able to read the data. It's going to combine all the data. It's going to give you a general overall report that's going to say this is what it cost us to own this piece of roadway or this particular asset. It's all inclusive, and we have a much better idea of what it's going to take to operate our system. Again, that's our goal. So again, Dave talked about this a little bit, and I'm not going to get into it again because of the interest of time, but I want to show, because I want to get to a couple of slides here that talks about the data that we've been collecting. Okay, we don't have a really good system in place right now, and I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek. We thought it was a pretty good system, but we're collecting data, and we through the efforts of WIG.1 that Dave was talking about, we have the people reporting their time and efforts and materials and equipment, all these stuff, down to the mile. Okay, so when they go out and they do a piece of work, we told them we got to enter in your mile points. In order for us to go back into and incorporate our data, we extracted it out and we combined it with all of the HPMA data, the pavement management system data, so we could get a cost per mile. And then we basically did some more manipulating of the data and had some huge spreadsheets of in excess of like 240,000 lines, which we just got really, really excited about to look at. And we came up with these resource demand models. So based on the condition rating of the roadways, we said, okay, if you got a condition rating of 2.7 or whatever, it's going to fall in a particular category, and this is what it's going to cost you per mile to maintain this. So as you can see on these, wrong button. And the next slide. So we came up with charts and said, okay, you've got these values, and this is going to cost you per mile for maintenance. Now we're talking about the maintenance operation. We're not talking about the program or the capital investment. We've never really taken a look at what it's going to cost us in the future to maintain the roadways and what kind of costs that the districts are going to be going to need to expend in order to keep their roadways up to a usable condition. So then what we did is we took that and we incorporated in the capital program out of the pavement management system. As you can tell, when I get excited, I talk really fast, right? I got all this vast amount of information that you guys got to know before I get done. But we've incorporated through the STIP and the CHIP, the 10-year program, all of the projects that were incorporated in there. This is a map that just a portion of a map that we show mile by mile what the forecasted condition rating is going to be based on the pavement management system on the degradation curves that we built in. And then, as you can see there, I just pulled up that little window that shows you the change in the SR. And so we've got all this wonderful data, and we're hoping that the next phase of this is going to be in the Agile software. That's going to be much easier. We can just click a button and it pops up and people see this stuff. So that's what our goal is, and that's why we're here today. So it wouldn't be good to send things out to the districts if you didn't incorporate dollars, because everything is done by the dollars. Now, what this slide shows is that we've taken that out and we show it basically, break it down to the non-HS and NHS and said this is what it's going to cost you by district, by year, to fix your roads and to keep your roads in its current condition based on the SR value. And we projected that out. Now, if you want to talk to me more about this, I can go in way more detail on this. And those of you who don't know me, I'll talk to your ear off by the time we get there. And this is, now this is looking at over the next 10 years. This particular graph is saying, okay, this is what each one of those districts can anticipate spending in maintenance dollars based on the information that we've currently gathered and developed. Again, broke down by the NHS and NHS and non-NHS. My last slide is I would be remiss if I didn't mention what Wade's been going through over the last couple of weeks or month or so. From going live, we've been doing the training. We hired a Sartell group to put the training on rather than have us try to do the train-the-trainer and train the end users and stuff, and it's been going actually very well, but we've ran into the same problems I think most of you did is, why are you changing? Why do we got to learn this? How come you're taking our old program away? And what's it going to be? What's going to do for me? And I don't like this. And I think the smartest thing we did is when we decided to go live, we said, we're going live, and oh, by the way, your old program's getting turned off. You have no choice. So all in all, I think it's going pretty well. And at that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
All right, thanks, Tom. Pretty much my last slide here, just a kind of a summary of some of the lessons that I feel like we learned over the process and some of the things that really helped us. Leadership support, obviously, the federal funding is a key thing. If you are planning on doing that with your federal funding for salaries, though, be aware that there's some labor that comes off the top first, and so 80-20 really turned out to us to be like a 60-40 split, so it kind of doubled what I needed in terms of operating dollars to match those federal dollars. But I guess another point I'd make is a really strong collaboration we've had with our IT department in terms of writing RFP and developing this, and working with Eric in particular and Brian on the project. So last thing, incremental approach. I think it's really served us well to just pick off that ITS, traffic signals and ITS. We did a lot of kind of the legwork on making the integrations and things like that in a pretty manageable approach to our integration. So where are we? We're about over time. Where's my moderator?
You got time for that, Dave.
I got.
You got time.
Oh, you guys okay? All right. So we had when we did.
His wonderful employees helped him with it.
Yeah. So this is a little clip we did on as a celebration piece for our when we finished up that first project, and I think it speaks more to really the creativity of my employees and the gullibility probably of their boss. Hi, I'm Dave Solsrud. For the last 2 years, I've been your asset management project manager. Can you believe it's been 2 years? I really want to thank all involved. Today is a great day to celebrate the accomplishments.
Thank you, Bridge. Great job. Thank you, culverts. To us, you're all number ones. Thank you, tower lights. We'll maximize your life.
Thank you very much. I realize we don't have time for questions. Connect with any of us afterwards if you have an interest to. Thanks again.